Okay, so my mic just messed up. So let me know how the onboard mic does on this Osmo Pocket 3. Let me quickly dive in to the subject of today, which is the Canon EOS R1. Yesterday they had the development announcement, and to be real, I was extremely disappointed, and I had stayed up late and I woke up early the next day thinking I was going to make a video about it. But when it came out, I honestly just did not know how to get on the camera and express my thoughts, because to me, they didn't really give us much of anything, just to say, hey, listen, we're developing the Canon EOS R1. And we're like, yeah, we've known that forever. You know, as soon as you named the other one the R3, we knew that there was an R1 coming. And the funny enough thing is the picture looks so much like the renders that everybody else put up, because like myself, I would just put the R1 on the R3, and essentially that's what it looks like. There's a few subtle differences, but you know, from a distance you could barely tell, or from a glance. They didn't give us much. I will say they kind of hinted at the fact that there's some new autofocus features. One of the coolest that I thought was that they're going to be able to automatically change subjects. So if maybe they see somebody with the ball getting passed over, and the ball, you know, maybe got stolen or whatever the case is in basketball, then it will be able to switch over to the next subject, which is pretty incredible machine learning that they must be using to be able to do stuff like that. Now, I do wonder how it's going to work, and if it's going to work properly, and if, you know, very professional sports and wildlife photographers will actually want to use it, because I can see that messing up a lot of shots as well, where it thinks it knows where you want the action, but it actually catches the wrong thing at the wrong time. So there's a lot of unanswered questions, but that was one of the hints, is that the autofocus is better. Okay, we all knew that the autofocus was going to be better on the R1. It's a newer camera. It's coming out 2 years after, or 3 years after the R3. So we knew this already. The only other thing they really hinted at is the processor, and they said that it's going to still get the Digic X processor, but it's going to have an AI accelerator, whatever that means. I mean, what it means is there's going to be a separate chip in there, kind of like what Sony's been doing with the different R5s and stuff of that nature. So, I mean, that's cool, but it's really just not telling us much about the actual capabilities. It's just saying, hey, it's going to be a better, faster camera. Again, we know all that. So I was very disappointed in the development announcement, because usually you get a little bit more out of it. Enough of my rant, because I waited until last night and I saw that Adorama actually maybe leak some of the specs on their website. Now, it is possible that these specs are them just kind of guessing and taking some of the rumors, and Adorama seems to think that that's somewhere near the mark. They're going to be in trouble. Hey, Adorama, links below if you want to get anything. Now, since that mess up at Adorama, I have seen them take down that list of specs. So it's possible, like I said before, that that has nothing to do with the actual specs, and they were completely wrong. They're going to be in trouble either way. But let me talk about what these specs were, because I think a lot of people are under the impression that this isn't a big deal, because it is. If these rumor specs are real, this is a very impressive camera that's about to come from Canon. So they're saying that it's going to have a 30 megapixels stacked dual gain sensor, which is absolutely nuts when it comes to video, and I'm interested to see what it means for photography as well. I would assume that on images and in video that it would improve the dynamic range, and that will be a big game changer, because to me, dynamic range is one of the most important factors in creating a beautiful image. And we'll have continuous shooting at 30 frames per second, and there's a burst mode that goes all the way up to 240 frames per second. So this is absolutely mind-blowing. Now, will this be RAW 240 or will this be JPEG 240? I don't think that's really been hashed out yet in the rumors to know for sure. But either way, that is extremely impressive and is going to be a great thing for sports photographers who are trying to catch the action in the moment and these things happen at less than fractions of a second, or well, it's fractions of a second, but very, very fractal fractions, low fractions of a second. Like 1/100th math. Now it's going to be a big headache too, because that's a lot of files that you would have to go through to make sure that you got your right one. I'm sure they'll have a system kind of like the A9 where they make almost like little video files so you can watch the video and find the right frame for yourself. That'll be interesting to see how they deal with it. I think they'll do something of that nature. Now I'm going to quickly go over to the video specs that we're hearing about this thing, because I think that's where some people who have had the R5 and have heard 8K as like a buzzword for a while are feeling like they're disappointed, and they shouldn't be. So if you have 30 megapixels, that's somewhere around 6.7K. Extremely sharp. The other thing is that this is a dual gain sensor, which is a huge deal, and to me, I would so much rather have this resolution with the dual gain sensor than have 8K, and that's coming from somebody who is shooting the Z8 right now with 8.3K at the top end, and it's super cool. Basically, if you're not aware of what a dual gain sensor does, is it underexposes slightly and it overexposes slightly, and in real time it puts these images together and creates a file. The C70 and other cinema cameras have had that from Canon, and a lot of people would say that the C70, the footage looked even better than the Canon R5, and that was only a 4K Super 35 sensor. Now, of course, that's debatable upon which look that you prefer. It's definitely a slightly softer image, only being 4K in comparison to 8K, but the dynamic range was 16 plus stops, and again, that's on a small sensor. So if you have a 30 megapixel camera coming in with 6.7K, doing dual gain, it's a stacked sensor as well. I mean, I don't know how many stops of dynamic range you're looking at, but even if it's a stop or two above where the Canon R5 Mark II lands, that is a big deal. It's such a big deal that the new RE cameras that are coming out, they are promoting themselves on their dynamic range. So they're not promoting themselves on their resolution. They didn't up it significantly when they came out with their latest camera, but what they did talk about is the insane clean stops of dynamic range, which I think is right around 17 for that camera. So the image that you're going to be able to get out of this should be absolutely stunning. And dynamic range, if you're not aware, basically how dark can your shadows get and how bright can your highlights get, and you still get a clean image out of it. So to me, when people are saying that this may be a disappointing camera on the video specs and are saying the R5 Mark II, since it's going to be 8K, means it's going to be superior, in my opinion, if it has an extra stop of dynamic range, I would rather have that than the whatever 0.3K extra that 8K would offer you. I really just think from a creative perspective, there's a lot more that extra stop could offer to you. So I'm glad that I waited a little bit for some of these specs to possibly have leaked out, because the development announcement to me was pretty lame, and I didn't want to just get on the camera, be negative because I was disappointed. So I didn't want to just jump on here, even though I could have been one of the first people to get out there, but I didn't want to just jump on and be like, oh, this sucks, because the development announcement, in my opinion, did pretty much suck. But I don't believe that this camera is going to suck. From these leaks, I am hearing of an amazing camera that I know a lot of people will be very happy to purchase. Myself, I will never be able to afford it. Until next time, peace.